You are not supposed to wait until it feels easy. You grow by forcing yourself into discomfort again and again until it becomes your edge. The hard things you avoid are the exact battles that build the version of you you're chasing. Every time you push through, your mind hardens, your will strengthens, and your confidence multiplies. You don't rise by chance. You rise because you train yourself to face what others run from. In a few moments, I will teach you how to force yourself to do hard things and build unshakable mental strength. You are not meant to stay comfortable. There's a silent killer of greatness, and it goes by a gentle name, comfort. You may believe you're protecting yourself by choosing ease over challenge, but every time you turn away from the difficult path, you don't just delay your growth, you delay your destiny. You were not born to sit, drift, or float downstream. You were born to push, against the tide, against resistance, against the odds. There's no reward in doing what's familiar. The man who seeks comfort first is always a servant to the man who endures discomfort for something greater. But what is comfort really? It is the illusion of safety, nothing more. And the more you chase it, the further you drift from the man you were meant to become. When you avoid hard things, you don't stay the same, you grow weaker. And when you embrace hard things, you don't just suffer, you sharpen. Now, how do you break this quiet addiction to ease? You must confront yourself each morning and ask, am I living as a man who expands or a man? Then pick one thing today that stretches you, one thing that demands more than you feel ready to give, and do it. Not tomorrow, now. Imagine you wake before the sun. It's cold. The bed is warm. You could sleep longer. No one would know. But you rise. You step into the chill, you train, you work, you think, you build, and the world, though still asleep, begins to bend in your direction because you moved while others stayed still. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something not because it was easy, but because it was necessary? You become strong only by lifting heavy things. Do you know how strength is built? Not by doing what comes naturally, but by doing what demands effort. A man's will is no different than his muscle. If you never lift what's heavy, you remain weak. But when you force yourself to pick up the unbearable, you grow into a man who cannot be broken. There's a strange belief that life should feel light, but that's not how progress is made. Everything worth building requires a burden. Whether it's responsibility, discipline, or persistence, the weight must be carried, not avoided. And what exactly are these heavy things? They are the habits you hate but need. The sacrifices no one sees, the self-gratitude that whispers not now when your impulse screams yes. These weights shape your mind, your character, your legacy. So how do you begin? You start by identifying what you've been avoiding. Then, one by one, you pick it up and carry it, not once, daily, until the pain becomes purpose and the resistance becomes a reward. Picture this, a man alone in a workshop. His hands are calloused, his shirt soaked, his back aching. But he's building, one plank, one nail, one hard-earned hour at a time. Others mock his struggle, but months later, when storms come, they run to the shelter he created. Now I ask you, are you willing to hurt a little each day so you don't suffer for a lifetime? The hard path teaches what comfort never can. They're lessons no book can teach. No teacher can explain, no speech can deliver. They are the lessons carved into you by the hard path. The kind you earn through sweat, setbacks, and silent struggle. Most men want the rewards of greatness, but not the path that leads there. They want wisdom without mistakes, power without pressure, mastery without mistakes. But it doesn't work that way. Every great man you admire, he bled for it. And what does the hard path actually give you? It gives you clarity, focus, self-respect. It forces you to meet the real you, the one that only shows up when things go wrong and everything hurts. To choose the hard path means you stop asking, will this be easy? And you begin asking, will this make me stronger? It's a shift, a vow, a decision that turns pressure into preparation and setbacks into sharpening stones. Imagine this. Two men walk into the forest. One walks the smooth trail, flat and well lit. The other takes the steep climb, clawing through thorns, slipping on stone. At the top, only one man sees the view. The other is still circling below, comfortable, but unchanged. So tell me, do you want the life that's comfortable or the life that's worth remembering? Self-belief begins when you do what you thought you couldn't. There is a power inside you that you have not yet met, not because it isn't there, but because you haven't challenged it enough to awaken. You think you know your limits, but you don't. You only know your routines. Confidence is not given, it is earned. Every time you face something you weren't sure you could survive, it grows in the silence between effort and doubt. And the only way to find it is to go where fear tells you to stop. Why do most men walk through life unsure of themselves? Because they've never tested what's inside them. They've never dared to act while shaking. They've waited for permission to feel ready. But readiness is a lie. Belief comes after the action, not before it. You must act like the man you want to become long before you feel like him. Try this. Set a task you've avoided, something uncomfortable, public speaking, physical hardship, difficult conversations, and now do it. Your hands might shake, your voice might waver, but when it's over, you'll know something new. You didn't die. You didn't break. You grew. Imagine stepping into a ring you've never entered. Your opponent is fear, but you don't flinch. You swing anyway, and even if you stumble, you leave with something more valuable than a win. You leave with belief. So ask yourself, are you waiting to believe in yourself before you act? Or will you act and then believe? Your future is hiding behind one hard decision. There comes a moment in every man's life when the path splits quietly, without warning. There is no grand announcement, no booming voice from the sky, just a subtle shift, a feeling deep in your gut, a sense that the decision you're about to make holds the weight of your entire future. This is the hinge, the point upon which your destiny swings. It may come dressed in discomfort. It may feel like risk. It may even look like loss, but it is not. It is the invitation to become the man you were meant to be. The tragedy is most men hesitate, not because they're weak, but because they overthink. They feel the pull, but they don't move. They tell themselves they need more time, more clarity, more courage, but none of that arrives. Because the moment demands decision, not perfection. While they wait for the fear to vanish, the opportunity quietly disappears, and their future fades behind them like a door that's slowly closing. The truth? No great man ever waited his way into greatness. He chose it. He moved into it. He felt the same fear, the same doubt, but he didn't let it stop him. He acted while others paused. He stepped forward while others looked backward. And in doing so, he changed everything. Because sometimes the only difference between an ordinary life and a legendary one is the decision to move. You already know the decision in front of you. Maybe it's walking away from comfort. Maybe it's ending what's easy and starting what's uncertain. Maybe it's devoting yourself fully to the dream you've been dancing around. You don't need someone else to tell you what it is. You feel it. You've been feeling it for a while now. That pressure in your chest, that quiet frustration with staying where you are. That's the sign. Imagine this. A man stands before two doors. One is familiar, bright, safe, applauded by all. The other is dark, silent, uncertain. Everyone tells him to take the first. It's easier, it's safer, but something inside him won't let him. Something in him knows that beyond the second door is the man he's supposed to become. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it demands growth. And so he reaches out, not because he's sure, but because he's ready to face it, to fail if he must, to become more than who he's been. So now ask yourself, what door are you standing in front of? And how much longer will you wait before you open it? Do the work when no one is watching. Success does not arrive with applause. It is not handed out under bright lights or earned through clever words. It is born in the quiet. The early hours, the late nights, the hidden moments when no one is watching. While others boast or sleep, you grind, you study, you sharpen, you grow. And you do it with no audience, no praise, no guarantees. Because deep down, you understand a timeless truth. The man who builds in silence will one day be seen by all. Not because he demanded attention, but because he became undeniable. Most people never rise to their true potential, not because they lack talent, but because they crave attention more than transformation. They show up only when eyes are on them. They work only when there's applause. They chase recognition instead of results, and so the moment the crowd leaves, so does their effort. They were never working from purpose, they were performing for praise. And that's why they fade. Their strength was borrowed, not built. But you must not walk that path. You must train yourself to act the same in darkness as you would in light. To show up when no one will ever know. Because if you can persist without recognition, without validation, without anyone cheering, you've already won. Why? Because success is not about being seen, it's about being ready when the world finally looks your way. What does that look like? It's the man who wakes before dawn, not to post about it, but to prepare. It's the one who reads while others relax, who trains while others sleep, who keeps refining long after others have plateaued. This is the discipline of the invisible, the relentless silent repetition that always comes before greatness. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's real and it's rare. Picture a blacksmith alone in his forge, no audience, no encouragement, just steel and sweat, just hammer and flame. Day after day he shapes, molds, perfects. The village hears the noise but sees nothing. They don't know what's being formed, but he does. And when the time is right, he opens the door. And what emerges isn't just a sword, it's mastery, not made in a moment, but forged in 1,000 silent hours. So ask yourself, honestly, are you still waiting to be noticed? Or are you becoming so great in private that the world will have no choice but to recognize you? No one will save you. You must decide. There comes a moment in every man's life where the illusion shatters. The illusion that someone is coming to save him. That moment is quiet but powerful. It arrives when you finally understand no mentor, no savior, no ideal circumstance will hand you the life you want. No applause will greet your first step. No map will mark your next one. You must rise alone. You must decide, this is on me. And yet, most men wait. They wait for the right time, for someone wiser to guide them, for the fear to go away, for the opportunity to come knocking. But all waiting does is waste. Time slips through their fingers while they search for signs. They don't see that the breakthrough they're hoping for isn't coming from the outside. It begins the moment they take full responsibility. Not partial, not when it's easy, but total responsibility regardless of the circumstances. That's where everything changes. That's the pivot point where life begins to move in your favor, not because it suddenly became easy, but because you stopped surrendering control. You stopped pointing fingers. You stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what will I do with this? The shift from blame to blame is where your power begins, because you may not control the chaos, but you do control your response. And in the end, your response is what becomes your reality. So what does this look like in your day-to-day life? It means you don't wait for motivation. You create it through action. You move even when your body resists. You lead yourself when it's raining, when it's hard, when it's lonely. That's the mark of the man who rises. He doesn't wait to feel like it. He decides and does because his commitment is greater than his comfort. Imagine a sailor stranded at sea. The sky is black, no stars, no compass. The storm howls and the waves crash. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know which direction is right, but he knows one thing: stillness means death. And so he grabs the oars and he rows, not because he's confident, not because he's fearless, but because motion is survival. And every stroke, every single pull brings him closer to land. That is you. That is your mission. You row through the doubt, through the pain, through the fog, because movement, any movement, is power. Stillness is surrender. You don't need a rescuer. You don't need perfect clarity. What you need is the courage to begin rowing today, not tomorrow. Because every moment you spend waiting is a moment you could have spent becoming. Becoming the man who does not fold, who does not flinch, who meets life head on and says, I may not have the map, but I will not stay here. So let me ask you, with nothing but truth between us, are you still waiting for rescue? Or have you finally decided to row toward the man you're meant to become? Discipline is the shortcut you're avoiding. Every man desires success and he wants it fast. But most look in the wrong direction. They search for shortcuts, for hacks, for easier roads. They chase comfort disguised as strategy. Yet the only true shortcut is the one most ignore: discipline. Not the kind that screams for attention, but the quiet, daily kind. The one that makes no noise but leaves undeniable results. It does not cut corners, it cuts waste. It slices through delay, distraction, and indecision, clearing a path straight to the reward. Where others lose time wandering, the disciplined man walks with direction. Still, many reject it. They call it harsh. They label it boring. They say it's too much. But what they fail to realize is this: the alternative is far more painful. Because undisciplined living has its own price: steep, hidden, and devastating. Regret, confusion, missed chances, emotional fatigue, a mind that's scattered, a body that drifts, a spirit that forgets its strength. These are the consequences of a life ruled by impulse. They don't arrive all at once. They creep in slowly until you wake up one day and wonder where your power went. Discipline, then, is not a punishment. It's a shield. It's a weapon. It is the armor that protects your vision in a world full of temptation. But what is it really? It's choosing what matters most over what's easy now. It's delaying what pleases the moment so you can build what feeds the future. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It is self-control repeated until it becomes identity. Not once, not when it's convenient, but daily. Especially when no one sees. Especially when no one else is doing it. And how do you develop this? You don't start by trying to master life. You start by mastering an hour. One disciplined hour where you command your focus and refuse distraction. From there, you stretch into a day, then a week, and in time, discipline becomes less of a struggle and more of a rhythm, like a muscle that strengthens with repetition. You direct your thoughts before they wander. You act on decisions before doubt speaks. You train your body to serve your vision, not your feelings. And soon, what once felt like burden becomes your greatest advantage. Picture this. A man stands before a vast jungle, thick, wild, endless. Many others rush in with blunt blades, hacking at random, sweating, screaming, lost. They waste motion. They lose direction. They grow tired. But this man is different. He sharpens his blade every morning. He studies the map. He plans his moves. Every swing of his machete is precise. He knows where he's going. He knows why. And while others wander, he walks quietly, efficiently. Not because he is stronger, but because he is disciplined. This is your choice. You can chase ease, join the crowd, keep cutting wildly through life, and remain lost. Or you can become the man who sharpens his blade, who acts with purpose, who shows up not once in a while, but every single day. So ask yourself, with brutal honesty, are you still chasing comfort, or are you finally ready to sharpen the blade that carves through chaos? Your pain has a purpose. If you keep going, pain is not your enemy. It's not a punishment. It's not a sign that something is wrong. Pain is a messenger, a mirror, a forge. It is the teacher most men run from, and the only one that teaches what comfort never can. Pain strips away illusion. It silences excuses. It demands presence. And if you endure long enough, if you stay in the fire without fleeing, you'll see what it's showing you. The part of yourself you didn't know was there. The part that doesn't break. The part that builds. Most men turn back the moment pain begins. The sting of failure, the ache of loneliness, the burn of discipline. They treat these like signals to stop. They flinch, they retreat, they say, this must mean I'm not ready. But pain doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. It means something real is happening now. Because the man who stays in discomfort, who breathes through the burn and continues anyway, he gains something no comfortable man ever will. He gains access to deeper strength, access to untapped focus, access to a version of himself forged in the fire, not created by ease, but by endurance. You were not born fragile. You were born capable, with a mind that can stretch beyond emotion, with a spirit that can hold weight. But that capacity isn't handed to you. It must be drawn out, and pain is what draws it. Every breakthrough in your life, every rise to a new level, every moment of real evolution will be preceded by discomfort, always. And the more it burns, the more it builds. It's not there to harm you, it's there to transform you. So why does pain exist? It exists to test your sincerity, to challenge your declarations. You say you want something, success, strength, peace, power, and pain steps in to ask, how badly? It measures your hunger. It separates the man who wishes from the man who works. It draws a line between fantasy and fight. And if you stay long enough, if you let it do its work without complaint, without running, something incredible happens. Your old self starts to fall away, and your real self begins to rise. What do you do with pain? You lean into it. You stop trying to avoid it. You breathe through it. You say, you will not move me. And when the voice in your head screams to quit, you go one more step, not because it's easy, not because it stops hurting, but because you've made a decision. This pain is mine. It's mine to walk through. It's mine to master, and I will not hand that power to fear. Picture it now. A man walking barefoot across burning coals. Every step is agony. His skin screams. His mind panics. But he keeps walking, not because the pain disappears, but because his focus is locked on the other side. He does not fixate on the fire. He fixates on the finish. And when he reaches it, something fundamental in him shifts. He didn't lose anything. He gained something, not in his body, but in his being. Confidence, resilience, power. the kind that only pain can give. Now ask yourself with complete honesty, what pain have you been avoiding? What have you been tiptoeing around, hoping it would pass on its own? And more importantly, what version of yourself might be waiting on the other side if you walked through it? If you didn't escape it, but embraced it, because pain will shape you. Whether it breaks you or builds you, that part is your choice. The fire will come, but only the man who stands still inside it walks out unshakable. You are either growing or shrinking every day. Whether you notice it or not, you are changing. The process is silent, invisible, but constant. You are not standing still. There is no neutral in life. Every decision, every action, every thought is taking you somewhere. The only question is, where? Toward your higher self, or back into the man you've already outgrown? That's the quiet fork in the road you face each day. And too many forget this. They believe that standing still is safe, that if they just coast, if they just do enough, they'll maintain who they are. But that is the great lie, because nothing in this world stands still. The current of life is always moving. And if you are not growing, you are shrinking. Time moves, the world moves, the people around you are changing, challenges are evolving. If you don't stretch, you don't stay the same, you decline. Muscles weaken from lack of use. Confidence erodes through avoidance. Vision fades in the absence of action. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to revert. Not just into someone who's stagnant, but someone less than you were meant to become. This is why growth is not optional. It's not a luxury for those with extra time. It's not something you get to if things are going well. It is a requirement, a discipline, a commitment you make with yourself every single day. And make no mistake, it will never be easy, because the hard thing is always the way forward. If something feels like resistance, if it terrifies you, if it forces you to evolve, that's your path. The obstacle is not in your way, the obstacle is the way. But what is growth really? It's not just consuming motivation. It's not reading 10 books and feeling inspired for a moment. Growth is action, intentional, repeated action that demands something from you. Something that changes your shape, your thoughts, your limits. Growth is confronting weakness with honesty. It is stepping into discomfort with courage. It is choosing progress over ease, again and again and again. It's in the early morning you didn't want to face, the apology you didn't want to make, the conversation you were afraid to have, the discipline you swore you'd start tomorrow. Growth begins where comfort ends. To grow daily, you must move with intent. You must treat each day like a test, a chance to stretch, to expand, to reach. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need to overhaul your life in one decision. But you do need to ask yourself, what is one thing I can do today that forces me to grow? Maybe it's finishing that task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's standing up for yourself. Maybe it's getting uncomfortable in the gym, on the stage, in the mirror. And once you find that one thing, you do it. Not once, not when it's convenient, but daily. Because that is how growth compounds. One brave act stacked upon the next. One uncomfortable step taken with resolve. Think of a tree, majestic, strong, grounded, but only because it never stopped growing. If a tree fails to grow roots, it withers. If it stops reaching toward the sun, it dies. You are no different. You must plant deeper beliefs, stronger principles. You must stretch toward higher aims, brighter purposes, and bolder visions. And you must do this every single day, not because someone is watching, but because the man you're becoming depends on it. So now, ask yourself, in the quiet space where truth can be heard, are your actions today making you stronger or smaller? Are you moving toward the man you admire, or are you simply repeating the man you're trying to outgrow? Life is not waiting, and neither should you. Growth doesn't knock on your door. You must chase it. You must earn it. Because the life you want, the strength you crave, the peace you seek, it's not found in who you already are. It's hidden just beyond who you're willing to become. The man who endures outlasts the man who rushes. Greatness never hurries. It doesn't crash into your life like a lightning strike. It doesn't erupt overnight or shout for attention. Greatness moves slowly, quietly. It builds itself moment by moment, action by action, choice by choice. It unfolds like a structure made of stone, brick by brick over time with no shortcuts allowed. The man who endures is the man who finishes, not the one who sprints in excitement, but the one who walks forward when excitement fades, because endurance is the ultimate proof that what you say you want, you truly desire, And yet, most men fall in love with speed. They crave the rush of early progress, the thrill of instant reward. They chase applause before they've earned the silence. They want the result without the repetition. They imagine a life of ease where success comes quickly. And when it doesn't, they stumble, they quit, they change direction. But here's the truth. Success never visits the impatient. It avoids the man who treats it like a race and rewards the one who treats it like a life. The one who keeps moving forward when the feelings disappear, when the setbacks multiply, when nothing seems to be working. What does endurance actually look like? It's not grand or dramatic. It's not loud. It's in the quiet mornings when your body begs for rest, but you rise anyway. It's in the failure that knocks the wind from your lungs, but you try again. It's in the days where the path vanishes, the map crumbles, the support disappears, and you still take a step. Not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because the mission is still alive inside you. Endurance is sacred. It's what separates those who want the reward from those who become worthy of it. To build this kind of strength, you must fall in love with the long game. You must choose patience like a sword and wear consistency like armor. You must remind yourself over and over that the man who wins isn't the one who starts loudest, flashes brightest, or talks longest. It's the one who finishes, the one who outlasts, the one who doesn't vanish when it gets hard. Endurance isn't glamorous, but it is unmatched in its power. Because when others stop, when others break, when others step off the path, you keep walking. And with every quiet step, you widen the gap. Think of a mountain. At the base, there are crowds, men with energy, excitement, motivation. Everyone is ready. Everyone is eager. But the climb begins. The air thins. The terrain shifts. The weather turns. And slowly, men fall away. Some stop for comfort. Some turn back from fear. Others claim the timing isn't right. But one man, he doesn't stop. Step after grinding step he climbs. He doesn't complain. He doesn't boast. He just continues. And when he reaches the summit, there's no fanfare, no cameras, no applause, just silence. And in that silence, clarity, a still, sacred realization. I did what I said I would do. That's greatness. That's enough. The world won't always notice your endurance. It won't always clap when you rise again. But that's not why you do it. You do it because you made a promise to yourself. And the man who keeps promises to himself, no matter how long it takes, becomes unstoppable. Because he cannot be shaken by delay. He cannot be broken by silence. He cannot be fooled by the shallow rewards of speed. He's after something real, something lasting, something earned. So now, with all honesty, ask yourself, are you chasing speed or are you building stamina? Are you addicted to progress that comes quickly or committed to progress that stays? Will you still show up when no one's watching? Will you still move forward when no one's clapping? Will you finish what you started, even when the path is empty and your legs are tired and no one is telling you to keep going? Because that is the climb that builds greatness. That is the work that outlives applause. That is endurance. And only a few ever reach the summit, not because they're the strongest, but because they refuse to stop. You can't grow without friction. Growth does not happen in the quiet moments alone. It does not arrive wrapped in ease or packaged in convenience. It demands pressure. It demands opposition. It demands that you feel the friction of becoming. Without resistance, you cannot gain strength. Without conflict, you cannot build character. And without discomfort, you cannot stretch into who you are meant to become. You may wish for a life of peace, and that is a worthy desire. But understand this, peace is not the absence of struggle. Peace is the strength you develop through it. It's the stillness that emerges after the battle, not because there was no war, but because you won it. And yet most people recoil at the first sign of pressure. They run from criticism. They hide from difficulty. They avoid confrontation and label it toxicity. But there is a deep cost to that avoidance, because when you reject friction, you reject growth. You stay smooth, unchallenged, unchanged. But smooth men don't cut through life. Dull blades don't pierce through resistance. And if your edges are never tested, you never know what you're capable of. You see, just as a blade is sharpened by a grindstone, you are sharpened by the grind of life. Friction does not break you. It shapes you. It sands away the ego. It polishes the purpose. It strengthens the will. But only if you stay in the process. Only if you resist the urge to flinch. Most flinch. They complain. They escape. They justify staying soft. But the man who learns to stand still under pressure, he gains something few ever do: power without noise, strength without show, confidence that does not need to be proven because it has already been earned. So what is friction? Truly, it's not just the grand battles. It's the subtle daily chiseling. It's the moment you receive criticism that stings, but you don't deny it, you examine it. It's the hard truth someone tells you, and instead of defending your flaws, you thank them. It's the mistake that bruises your ego, and instead of retreating, you say, let's try again. It's the conversation that scares you, the decision that stretches you, the challenge that threatens your comfort zone. These are not curses, these are chisels. And chisels never arrive to destroy, they arrive to reveal, to carve out the strong, focused, disciplined man that comfort keeps hidden. Imagine a craftsman working with wood. The process is not gentle. There's grinding, scraping, splinters, dust in the air. It's loud, it's messy, the material resists. But the craftsman persists. He applies pressure with purpose. He uses his tools not to destroy, but to define. And slowly, shape emerges. Smoothness appears. Strength is revealed. The beauty of the final piece exists because of the friction, not in spite of it. You are no different. You are the raw material. And life is the craftsman. The question is, will you allow it to shape you, or will you resist and remain unfinished? This is the hard truth. The life you want, the peace you crave, the strength you admire in others, it will not come through avoidance. It will not be handed to the man who only chooses ease. It belongs to the man who says, yes, this struggle too is part of me, and I will not run from it. He uses the pain. He learns from the tension. He grows through what others avoid. He stops wishing for a path without challenge and starts working with the challenge he's been given. And the beautiful thing is, once you've faced enough friction, peace begins to form, not around you, but within you. Because you begin to realize the world can be chaotic, people can criticize, life can push and pull, but you're steady, you're not fragile, you're not confused. You've been through the grind, you've been sharpened, and now you carry that edge everywhere you go. So let me ask you now, are you avoiding discomfort or using it to sharpen your edge? Are you running from resistance or are you turning into it like a blade on a stone? Because the difference between the man who folds and the man who forges is not talent, it's not opportunity, it's relationship with friction. One fears it, the other uses it. Discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you're close to something real, something meaningful. And when you learn to face it with calm and courage, you start becoming someone very rare. You start becoming someone who cannot be dulled, no matter how hard life presses against you. That's the choice before you, not whether you will face struggle, because you will. The choice is whether you will treat that struggle as your enemy or as your greatest sharpening stone. The mind follows the command of the will. Your body is capable of great things. It will rise when told. It will endure pain. It will repeat movements, follow routines, execute commands. But all of that, every action it takes, originates from thought. And those thoughts, in turn, must answer to something greater, will. This is the true hierarchy of power in a man's life. Will commands thought. Thought commands action. Action produces results. Break that chain at the top and everything beneath it falls apart. Without will, discipline fails. Dreams decay. Progress halts because the engine of all growth begins not in the body, not even in the mind, but in the will to begin. Most men never master this. They obsess over habits, over routines, over motivation, but they never take hold of the root. They wait for the right mindset, they wait for energy, they wait to feel inspired, but will does not wait. Will does not ask for the weather. It does not beg for better conditions. It steps forward in the dark and says, do it anyway. That is its power. It moves without applause. It acts without feeling. It commands when everything else would collapse. And that is what must be trained before all else. Why is willpower so rare? Why do so few develop it? Because it asks for something almost no one wants to give. Self-leadership. Not external pressure, not accountability, not the eyes of a crowd, will ask you to rule yourself in silence, to take action when no one will know, to follow through when no one will reward you. It demands that you become your own master, your own coach, your own commander, your own enforcer. And that is not a comfortable role, but it is the most powerful one a man can ever assume. Willpower is not a gift. It is a muscle. You train it through repetition. And like any muscle, it does not grow by accident. It grows by resistance. Every time you feel like breaking your word and don't, your will strengthens. Every time you want to quit but don't, your will grows sharper. And you don't begin with monumental feats. You begin small. You make clear, precise promises to yourself. I rise at dawn. I do not eat what weakens me. I finish what I start. I do not lie, not to others and not to myself. These declarations are simple, but they are sacred, because each one builds the structure of your inner authority. And soon you do not need emotion to act. You do not need fire to move. You only need your word. There is a clarity in this way of living, a strength that doesn't fade when motivation does. Imagine a general in the middle of a war. The sky is black with smoke. His men are shaken. Supplies are low. Morale is crumbling. Every face looks to him. And what does he do? He doesn't panic. He doesn't run. His eyes stay sharp. His shoulders square. He issues one clear, unwavering command: advance. And they follow, not because the path is certain, but because the general is. His certainty becomes their strength. His resolve becomes their rhythm. That general is you. That battlefield is your life. Your thoughts are the soldiers. Your body is the army. And your will? That is the command that cuts through the chaos and makes order from doubt. You must understand, your thoughts do not have the right to rule you. They are tools, not masters. They are meant to obey a higher voice. And when that voice is clear, when your will is firm, your thoughts will align. They will stop wavering. They will stop negotiating. They will move in the direction you decide. And when your thoughts fall into line, so will your actions. And when your actions align, your results cannot be denied. But what happens when you do not lead yourself? The opposite. Your thoughts begin to run wild. They pull you toward pleasure, distraction, escape. They give you 100 reasons not to do what you promised. And without will, you follow them. You drift, you delay, you spiral. Because when will is absent, the mind is not strong. It is loud, but not clear. And the body, it obeys the confusion. And so nothing moves forward. Days pass. Promises break. The man grows weaker, not from lack of potential, but from lack of leadership. So ask yourself now, in full honesty, have you taken command? Are you living from your will or from your moods? Do you act because it's right or because it feels good? Do your thoughts lead your body, or does your will lead them all? The man who commands himself is rare, but when you meet him, you know it. He doesn't shout, he doesn't boast, but he moves calmly, consistently, without hesitation. He keeps his word. He follows through. He leads himself where others beg to be led, and because of that, his life begins to take a shape others can't explain. Quietly, brick by brick, he builds a fortress within. A will so strong that neither fear nor failure can shake it. That is what you must build. Not just habits, not just routines, will. The highest authority within you, the power that governs all others. And it begins today with one command. That you keep. If it's hard, it probably matters hard, is not a reason to stop. It's not a red flag that tells you to turn back. It's a signal, clear and undeniable, that you're standing on sacred ground. When something feels heavy, intimidating, or uncertain, it's often because it's important, because it matters, because it's tied to your evolution. The task that scares you, it's the one that shapes you. The challenge you resist, it's the one that refines you. The weight you avoid, it's the one that builds you. That's the paradox of personal growth. The more resistance you feel, the more aligned it likely is with your destiny. And why is this so? Because anything meaningful demands transformation. And transformation is never convenient. It doesn't arrive when you feel ready. It doesn't happen without a cost. You must stretch beyond your current self. You must abandon old comforts, outdated stories, habits that have served their time. You must shed parts of yourself that were once useful, but are now in the way. You can't step into a bigger life while clinging to a smaller identity. That's why hard things appear as guardians at the gate. They don't block you to punish you. They block you to prepare you. To pass through them, you must change. You must grow stronger, sharper, braver. That's the design. Difficulty is not a mistake. It's the method. And once you realize this, everything changes. You stop running from the hard things. You begin to see them as invitations. So when something feels hard, don't retreat. Don't distract yourself. Don't talk yourself out of it. Ask instead, why is this hard? What in me must grow to carry this? That question flips everything. It shifts your focus from fear to transformation. It reminds you that the burden reveals the level. Just like in a game where bigger bosses guard greater treasures, in life the hardest challenges often stand closest to your breakthrough. You must become bigger to lift them. And in doing so, you become who you were meant to be. But what are these hard things really? They're not always grand gestures or monumental tasks. Often, they're the simplest truths we avoid: speaking up when silence is safer, leading when you feel unready, forgiving someone who hasn't asked, letting go of something you once thought you couldn't live without, finishing what you started when every cell in you wants to quit. These are the real thresholds. Each one is a doorway. Each one takes effort. And each one, once crossed, unlocks a stronger version of you. Here's the practice. Take one hard thing you've been avoiding. Just one. The call you haven't made, the task you've delayed, the habit you haven't broken, the truth you haven't spoken. Pick it. Then do it first. Before you rationalize, before you negotiate, before you shrink, just begin. Push through the resistance. Finish. Then pause and feel what happens inside you. Notice how your posture shifts, how your voice feels more grounded, how your inner critic goes quiet. That's what happens when you meet the challenge head on. You gather evidence that you can, and that evidence becomes power. Imagine now you're standing before a large iron gate. It's heavy, rusted, locked by time and fear. Most people walk past it. They say, too much effort, not for me, maybe someday. And they go around seeking lighter doors. But you stop. You place your hands on the cold metal. You feel the resistance. You don't turn away. You lean in, you strain, you sweat, you heave, and slowly, inch by inch, the gate begins to move. And behind it, a path only a few ever see. The life you've imagined, not given, earned. That is what it means to face what's hard. It's not about proving anything to the world. It's about proving to yourself that the door is movable, that you are not small, that you are not powerless. You've just been standing in front of the right gate, waiting for it to open for you. But that's not how it works. The life you want doesn't open with wishes, it opens with will. So ask yourself now, what gate have you been avoiding? What's the task, the truth, the conversation you've been pushing aside because it felt too much? And what if, just what if, the very thing you've labeled too hard is the key? The key, not just to a new result, but to a new you. Because on the other side of that gate is clarity, confidence, strength. Not because they were hidden there, waiting, but because they are the reward for the man who pushes it open. The more you delay, the more it costs. There is a silent weight that builds with every hesitation. You may not feel it in the moment, but it accumulates slowly, quietly, until one day you look back and realize that the cost of your delays was far greater than the difficulty of beginning. Time has a way of slipping past unnoticed, and every time you say, not yet, life quietly nods and walks away with what could have been yours. You might believe you're protecting yourself by waiting, that by pausing you're being wise, cautious, strategic, but waiting becomes a habit faster than action ever does. And that habit carries a hidden toll. Wasted years, lost energy, missed moments. The truth is, delay is the most expensive decision you'll ever make, because it taxes your future while comforting your present. It gives you relief now and regret later. Think of how many times you've whispered to yourself, I'll start tomorrow. That soft, reasonable-sounding phrase has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Because tomorrow turns into a cycle, a loop. You don't move forward, you just repeat yesterday under a new excuse. And all the while, the path in front of you grows colder, the fire inside grows dimmer, and the life you want grows further away. Delay is not harmless, it compounds. One missed hour becomes a missed day. One postponed decision becomes a season of stagnation. And every hour you spend stalling is an hour you could have been building. Momentum is real, so is decay. There is no standing still. You are either moving toward the man you're meant to be or slipping quietly away from him. But why do we delay? Why do we push back the very things we say matter most? The answer is simple, even if we rarely speak it aloud. Because beginnings are hard. Starting is where resistance lives. Taking action forces you to step into the unknown, and the unknown is uncomfortable. It demands risk. It demands effort. And effort is inconvenient when comfort is so near. So we bargain with time. We tell ourselves soothing stories. I need more clarity. I need the right tools. I need better timing. But underneath it all, we don't need more time. We need more courage. Because it's not knowledge we lack, it's the will to begin. And that beginning, that leap into motion, is the gate to everything. The remedy is both simple and brutal. Start now. Not when you feel ready, not when your fear disappears, not when the stars align. Now. Begin with what you have, from where you are. It will feel messy, it will feel uncertain, you will question yourself. But you must understand this: movement creates clarity. Every step forward reveals the next one. Action is how you find your direction. Not thought, not planning, not waiting. You think your way into hesitation, but you act your way into progress. Picture a man standing at the edge of a wide river. On the far bank lies everything he wants: his goals, his peace, his growth, his future. The water is rough, the sky is dark. He says, "I'll cross when the wind calms, when a bridge appears, when I'm better prepared." And so he waits. One season, then another. Years pass. The river doesn't change. The wind still blows. The bridge never comes. But then another man arrives. He sees the same storm, feels the same fear, but he dives in, cold, shivering, struggling, but he swims and he reaches the other side, not because he had more, but because he started. That's the difference. Not talent, not timing, initiative. One man waits for the perfect condition. The other acts despite the conditions. And the world always rewards the man who moves. So ask yourself now, not later, not tonight, how much more are you willing to lose just because you didn't begin? How many more days will you trade for hesitation? How much of your life will you hand over to the false comfort of maybe tomorrow? Because there's a truth you already know. You're not stuck. You're just stalling. The door isn't locked, the gate isn't closed, but it will never swing open until you push. Life doesn't give breakthroughs to the man who waits. It gives them to the man who dares. You don't need more time. You don't need more advice. You don't need more readiness. You need to start. And you need to start before the fear convinces you to delay again, before the doubt wraps its arms around your potential and calls it protection, before comfort becomes your cage. Start now, not perfectly, not loudly, just start. One step, one task, one hard thing done today instead of tomorrow. Because every time you act, you take back your time, you take back your power, and most importantly, you take back your life from the hands of hesitation. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of becoming the man you were always meant to be. Resistance means you're going the right way. The moment you decide to rise, truly rise, resistance will greet you like an old rival. It never fails. The second your foot steps off the starting line of comfort, you feel it. Pressure, friction, doubt, delay. It shows up not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something real. And yet, many men misread this moment. They take resistance as a warning sign, a red light, a message to stop, to turn back, to rethink. But this is a fatal mistake. Resistance is not a signal to retreat. It's the proof you've begun to move in the right direction. Because nothing of value lies in the open. Nothing meaningful is just handed over. Everything you want, growth, clarity, strength, freedom, sits behind a wall. And that wall, it's not there by accident. It's not a trap. It's a filter, a test, a necessary challenge that separates those who wish from those who will. The moment you feel that resistance press against your chest, that weight of struggle, it is not asking you to leave. It is asking, how badly do you want this? That's the truth most avoid. They want the outcome, but not the opposition. They crave the reward, but shudder at the requirement. But here's the reality. The greater the resistance, the more significant the pursuit. You don't face resistance for trivial things. You don't wrestle with fear over meaningless tasks. Resistance only arises when something important is at stake. And the stronger it becomes, the more certain you can be you're standing on the edge of something transformational. Something that requires more of you, more focus, more strength, more discipline. It is not a door slamming shut. It is a door that requires you to earn the right to open it. Why does resistance come at all? Why doesn't the path just unfold cleanly when we make good decisions, when our heart is in the right place? Because growth demands sacrifice. You cannot rise while remaining the same. A part of you must die for a better part to emerge. Your laziness, your doubt, your excuses, your attachment to ease, these must be burned away, and resistance is the heat that does it. It is the necessary battle between the man you've been and the man you are trying to become. When resistance shows up, and it will, you have two choices. Most men back away. They freeze, they stall. They turn around and tell themselves, maybe this isn't for me. But that is the voice of comfort, not clarity. The voice of old patterns, not power. The few, the very few, respond differently. They lean in. They stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, who must I become to break through this? That shift is everything. Because the right question doesn't weaken you, it strengthens your will. You stop seeing resistance as a barrier. You start seeing it as a mirror, reflecting who you are and demanding that you grow. You learn to recognize the enemy in all its forms: hesitation, fatigue, fear, perfectionism. You see these not as roadblocks, but as familiar tricks of an old system designed to keep you the same. And you respond, not with delay, but with relentless action. That's the only thing resistance cannot withstand. Relentless movement, the refusal to slow down, the decision to move forward, even when everything inside you says, stop. Action, even imperfect, is a weapon against resistance. Picture it now, a man walking across a vast plain. He begins with energy, with clarity, with light in the sky. But then, wind, darkness, noise, resistance. Most would turn around. Most do. But this man lowers his head. He digs in his heels. He keeps walking, step by step, not faster, not louder, just forward. And when the storm finally passes, he looks around and finds himself alone. Not because others were not capable, but because they weren't willing. And he is stronger now, sharper, wiser. Not because he avoided the storm, but because he walked through it. This is the essence of greatness. Not talent, not timing, but the ability to keep moving because it got hard, not in spite of it. Every man who has ever built something lasting, something worthy, has stared resistance in the face and marched forward anyway. Not because he felt fearless, but because he decided this storm will not break me, it will build me. So ask yourself, truthfully and without excuse, when was the last time you kept going simply because it got hard? Not because of reward, not because someone was watching, but because something inside you knew this is the price of the next level. Resistance is not punishment. It is not rejection. It is proof. Proof that you're attempting something that matters, that you're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't yet exist, but can if you continue. It's a signal that you're on the path of transformation, and transformation, as every man of substance knows, is never free. It asks something of you. It takes you through fire, but on the other side, clarity, strength, certainty, not given, but earned. So, the next time resistance rises, and it will, don't flinch, don't pause, push. Lean into it, fight forward, because if the path is hard, it means it's yours. And if you dare to keep walking, you'll find that every ounce of struggle was simply proof that greatness was just beyond the wall. Your word to yourself is your power. The most sacred promise you'll ever make is the one you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening. Not the vows made under lights, not the declarations posted for attention, but the quiet commitment made in the solitude of your own mind. This promise is different. It's the foundation, the root, the thread that ties your identity to your future. And if you break it, you lose more than just opportunity. You lose something far deeper: power. The power of self-respect, the power of certainty, the power that only comes from knowing your word means something. Most men don't protect this promise. They speak carelessly, casually pledging to change, to rise, to take action. But their follow-through is shallow. I'll wake up early, they say, until the bed feels warm and the morning feels heavy. I'll change, they say, until the same comfort seduces them back. I'll lead, they say, until leadership requires risk. And with every broken vow, something inside them begins to fade. Their belief in themselves weakens. Their identity becomes blurred. Their strength, once potential, once fire, dissolves into smoke. And yet, there is a different kind of man. He's not louder. He doesn't boast. But when he speaks, he listens, not because others hold him accountable, but because he holds himself. When he says, I will, he does, no matter the conditions, no matter the mood. His confidence is not borrowed from praise. It's not inflated by applause. It's built layer by layer on the back of consistency. He trusts himself because he's earned that trust, and that kind of trust cannot be bought, gifted, or faked. So what does this promise look like in practice? It looks like small disciplines, simple rituals, daily effort that seems invisible to the world but invaluable to your soul. It's the alarm going off at 5 o'clock a.m. and you rising, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. It's finishing the task even when no one will ever know it was done. It's choosing to eat clean, speak truth, work deeply, not because it's easy or fun, but because these were the terms of your promise. These moments are where your word is tested. not in public declarations, but in private decisions, and how you handle them determines who you become. The man who breaks his word internally starts to decay from the inside out. No one may see it at first, but he feels it. The hesitation, the self-doubt, the fog in the mirror when he looks at himself and no longer believes what he hears. But the man who keeps that internal vow, he sharpens with every repetition. His word becomes weight. He can feel it. When he says something, he knows he'll follow through, and others feel it too. His presence carries credibility. His silence commands more respect than another man's speech. Because he's not performing, he's embodying something rare, honor. Not the kind handed out with medals, but the kind forged in the dark, the kind that lives in the way he wakes, moves, speaks, decides. Want to build this kind of power? Start with one thing. Not 10, not a complete overhaul, just one promise. I won't snooze the alarm. I'll write for 30 minutes. I won't eat that today. Make it specific. Then keep it for 7 days. Keep it when you're tired. Keep it when it's raining. Keep it when no one would blame you for quitting. Then stretch it. 10 days, a month, a season. And slowly your word will become law to you. Not optional, not flexible, but fixed. And once that happens, once your word becomes an anchor, you become unshakable. Picture a stonemason working before sunrise. The world still sleeps. The sky is gray. Rain taps the earth, soft and steady. No one watches. No crowd cheers. But there he is, laying bricks, one by one, morning after morning, in silence, in solitude, brick by brick. And 1 year later, a fortress stands, strong, tall, resilient, not built by inspiration, not built by motivation, built by honor. That is what your word becomes, a structure that houses your discipline, protects your vision, and signals to the world, I am who I say I am. Now pause and look inward. Ask yourself, do you trust yourself? When you speak, do your actions echo that sound? Or have your words become smoke, drifting in the wind, forgotten by morning? Because if your word means nothing to you, it will mean nothing to others. And when that happens, doors close. Not because people don't believe in you, but because you don't believe in you. Opportunity retreats from the man who retreats from his own promises, but it rushes toward the man whose word is a bond. A man who honors his commitments, not because he has to, but because that is who he chooses to be. Keep your word, and life will bend in your direction. People will feel your strength before you speak. Doors will stay open longer. The mirror will meet you with pride, not pity. But break it, and even your reflection will lose respect for you. The promise you make to yourself is the foundation of your life. Build it with weakness, and the structure crumbles. Build it with strength, and nothing can bring it down. So make your vow, honor it, and become the man whose word is not just spoken, but kept. The man who can wait wins. Most people don't fail because they didn't try hard enough. They fail because they didn't wait long enough. They show up with ambition, ready to build, to rise, to change, but when the results don't appear fast enough, they back away. They confuse delay with denial. They think if something doesn't bloom by morning, it was never meant to grow. And so they walk away. Not because the seed was dead, but because their patience was. That is the quiet tragedy of most lives. They stop too soon, not at the end of their effort, but at the end of their expectation. Greatness doesn't arrive with speed. It doesn't answer to urgency. It moves on a slower clock, a deeper timeline. It unfolds quietly, gradually, and only to those who outlast the discomfort of not yet seeing the reward. Patience is not just a virtue, it is the gatekeeper of destiny. It is the force that separates the man who starts from the man who finishes. Because while energy is common at the beginning, endurance is rare when the road turns long. And yet most people treat waiting like weakness, as if the one who pauses, who persists without evidence is somehow lesser. But waiting is not weakness. Waiting is strategy. It is the ability to move with conviction even when the path is unclear. It is strength under control. The man who can wait without losing fire, who can keep building without applause, who can stay the course while others abandon theirs, he holds the real advantage. Because while others panic, he prepares. While they doubt, he sharpens. While they seek shortcuts, he strengthens his foundation. But let's not lie to ourselves. Patience is hard. It's not romantic, it's not glamorous, it's often quiet and lonely. It tests your belief in what no one else can see. Results don't always come on your schedule. They don't care how badly you want them. They don't show up just because you worked for a few weeks or made a few sacrifices. They arrive when the timing is right, not for you, but for the result itself. That is what makes patience painful. You're doing all the right things, and yet nothing changes. People begin to question you. They don't see anything blooming, so they mock what they don't understand. They call your persistence foolish, your faith naive, and sometimes you believe them. Stillness begins to feel like stagnation. Days blur together. You wonder if it's even working. You question if you're deluding yourself. But here's the truth. Waiting is not passive. It's not sitting on your hands hoping. It's preparation. It's watering dry soil. It's showing up to the field even when there's no sign of life. It's refining your skill, sharpening your mind, deepening your roots. Because the deeper the root, the stronger the tree when the storm comes. That's what waiting does. It builds below before anything appears above. So what must you do in the face of silence, in the presence of delay? You must endure with discipline. You must keep showing up. Keep building, keep moving, even when the results are invisible, especially when they are invisible, because that is the test. That is where most men fall. Not when it's hard, but when it's quiet, when the noise fades and no one claps and the progress hides. That's when your belief must speak louder than your doubt. That's when your will must become your witness. Picture a farmer in the early season. He rises before dawn. He tills the ground. He waters the soil, day after day, week after week. But the land stays dry. No shoots, no green, no visible return. Most would stop. They'd say it's not working. They'd curse the field, blame the weather, walk away. But he stays, not because he's blind, but because he understands the process. He knows that under the surface something is happening, slowly, quietly, but inevitably, and one morning it breaks through, not as a miracle, but as a result. Not suddenly, but surely. That is patience. And that is power. Now ask yourself, are you quitting on your vision because time is testing you? Are you abandoning your progress because it hasn't performed on demand? Or are you willing to endure the season that breaks the week? Can you hold your line through the drought? Can you keep believing while others walk away? Because here's the truth. The man who waits wisely, he wins quietly. He doesn't need to announce he doesn't need to prove his process. He stays the course. And then, one day, when the results arrive, when the field bursts with fruit, when the dream begins to manifest, people point and call him lucky. They don't understand what he endured. They don't remember the silence he walked through. They only see the harvest. But he remembers. He knows the truth. He knows the cost. He knows that he didn't win because he was the fastest, the smartest, or the loudest. He won because he didn't stop. And neither should you. If you quit once, it gets easier to quit again. The first time you quit, something inside you stings. There's shame in your chest, a bitter taste in your mouth, and a weight in your gut you can't quite name. You feel it, the discomfort, the disappointment, the silent realization that you could have gone further but chose not to, that you backed away from the edge not because you had to, but because it was hard. That's the truth most never say aloud. Quitting hurts, but only the first time. The danger is what comes next. Because the second time you quit, that pain's a little less sharp, the voice of regret a little quieter. The third time, quitting feels almost reasonable. It becomes the easier path, and before long it turns into a habit. Not a conscious decision, but a reflex, something you do without even realizing it. That's how dangerous quitting is. It doesn't just stop your progress. It rewires your identity. It teaches your brain that discomfort is a wall, not a doorway. That resistance means retreat. That the moment things get hard, the only rational response is escape. And your mind listens. It adapts. It records every time you backed out, every time you broke a promise to yourself, every time you whispered, just not today, and made it gospel. Soon, the belief, this is hard. It becomes, I can't do hard things. And once that belief takes root, the damage is deep. You no longer attempt what stretches you. You stop reaching. You stop risking, not because life took your power, but because you gave it away one unfinished goal at a time. But there's a different path, a harder path, one that fewer walk, but the only one worth taking. It's the path of finishing what you start, even when it hurts. Even when the outcome is uncertain, even when you fail along the way, you keep going. Not because you're confident, but because you've decided quitting is not an option anymore. This path doesn't just lead to better results, it leads to a stronger you, a version of yourself that's resilient, reliable, relentless. When you walk this path, something shifts. You stop asking, can I do this? And start saying, I finish what I start. That's who you are now. That's what your mind learns to believe. And that belief, It changes everything. It becomes the force that carries you through the days when you don't feel like it, through the failures that would broken the old you, through the silence when no one notices your effort. But how do you break the cycle of quitting? How do you reverse what's already been taught? You choose one thing, one task, one commitment, one goal that challenges you, and you finish it no matter what. You take away the exit signs. You close the escape hatch. You burn the bridge back to excuse. You say to yourself, there is no other direction but forward. That one act of finishing is powerful, not because of what it achieves, but because of what it undoes. It begins to unlearn the pattern. It starts to rewire the reflex. Imagine a man in the middle of a storm. The sky is dark. Rain lashes his face. The trail ahead is a mess. Muddy, steep, uncertain. He pauses. He remembers the last time he turned back, how it felt to quit, how long it haunted him, how it made the next challenge even harder to face. And so instead of retreating again, he plants his foot firmly in the ground, he clenches his jaw, and he takes one step forward. That single step doesn't change the weather, but it changes him. It rebuilds trust in his ability to endure. It chips away at the lie that quitting is easier. And with every step that follows, quitting becomes harder and winning becomes easier. Because once your identity shifts to, I finish what I start, every decision aligns with that belief. You no longer look for shortcuts. You stop entertaining distractions. Your endurance grows. Your reputation, both to others and to yourself, sharpens. You become the kind of man others can count on, but more importantly, the kind of man you can count. And that internal trust, that's the foundation of every great achievement. So take a moment now and reflect. Look back on your unfinished commitments, the goals that gathered dust, the promises made in excitement but broken in exhaustion. Were they truly impossible? Or did you just train your mind to quit? Did you back away because it was too hard? Or because you'd already shown your mind that quitting is acceptable? You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are simply at a fork in the road. Down one path lies the familiar cycle of almosts and maybes. Down the other lies a new identity. One built not in loud declarations, but in quiet determination. You don't need to prove anything to the world. You don't need to finish 10 things at once. You just need to keep one promise. Just one. Finish what you start. Let that become who you are. And from there, build again. Because the man who stops quitting, he becomes the man who starts winning. Not all at once, but step by step, storm by storm, until one day, quitting isn't even a thought, because he knows, I don't back down. Most people talk. Few build. Talk is cheap, easier than breathing, lighter than air. It costs nothing to speak about dreams, to promise a future, to paint visions of who you'll become. The world is full of voices describing what will be, what they could do, what they plan to become. But the truth always stands when the noise fades. Only a few ever take the harder path, the building path, the path that doesn't just echo with intentions, but rises, brick by brick, into something real. These few don't just leave words behind, they leave legacy. Look around and you'll see it everywhere. Men full of ideas, overflowing with enthusiasm, grand plans, lofty ambitions. But if you watch closely, if you pay attention, not to what they say, but what they do, you'll see the difference. Most are speaking sentences, only a few are taking steps. Words without movement become wind. They scatter, they disappear. But effort turns into evidence, the kind that can't be argued with, can't be ignored, the kind that stands. So why do so few build? Why do most stay in the realm of talk rather than enter the grind of creation? Because building is slow. It's thankless in the beginning. It demands solitude, while talk invites an audience. Building tests your patience, while talking satisfies your ego. Building makes you invisible before it makes you impressive. No one claps for laying the foundation. No one celebrates the first hour of hard labor. Building gives you no instant reward. And in a world obsessed with speed, visibility, and applause, building is rebellion. Building is lonely. While others share and broadcast and perform, the builder goes silent. He's not seeking approval. He's seeking impact. And impact takes time. It takes grit. It takes repeated work when no one is watching. That's why it's rare. That's why so few ever hold anything solid in their hands. Because most chase the feeling of significance without paying the price to earn it. But you, if you want to live differently, must become the one who builds. The one who moves while others talk. The one who keeps laying bricks when others change plans. The one who finishes while others dream. There's no glamour in the start. There's no cheering crowd in the middle, But when the dust settles, when the storm quiets, when all the voices grow tired, the builder stands, taller than the bragger, not because he talked more, but because he did more. So what should you build? Not just companies or projects or fortunes. Start with yourself. Build your discipline. Build your character. Build your skill, your habits, your vision. Not all at once. One stone at a time, one routine repeated, one decision honored, 1 hour worked while the rest sleep. Build in silence. Build without needing validation, without showing your blueprints to people who don't understand the structure you're creating. Let your work be the evidence. Let your consistency speak for you. Imagine a carpenter. He wakes early. He heads to his site. No crowd, no fanfare, just him, the tools, and the plan in his mind. Every day he hammers, measures, cuts, lifts, aligns. The weather changes, his mood shifts, but the work remains. He keeps laying wood, tightening bolts, aligning edges. For weeks, nothing appears, just noise and dust. And then, one day, it takes shape. A wall, a frame, a roof, a home. People come, they marvel. When did you do this, they ask. But he doesn't marvel, he nods. Because he always knew. He didn't need their eyes to believe in the structure. He saw it long before they did. That's what it means to build. To work when no one's watching. To believe in something no one else sees. To continue when the applause fades or never comes. To trust the process when the product is still invisible. That is power. That is purpose. And that is the path of the rare few who don't just talk about life, they build one. And yes, it's easier to perform, to announce, to describe your intentions with powerful words. But don't mistake articulation for achievement. Don't mistake passion for persistence. Don't mistake being admired for being aligned with what actually matters. Real builders don't speak to impress, they act to transform. So now ask yourself, without distraction, are you building something real? Or are you just repeating lines you think people want to hear? Are your days filled with tasks that stack into something lasting? Or are they spent painting pictures in the air with nothing behind them? It takes nothing to declare. It takes everything to deliver. You know what matters by what you repeat. You know what's real by what you continue. And you know who you are not by what you say, but by what you build when no one claps. So speak less, move more. Let the work speak when the words run out. Lay the brick, make the cut, do the work. Because in the end, the only voice that echoes through time is not the loudest, it's the one that left something standing. The difference between the man who talks and the man who builds is action. So take it, every day, without waiting, without excuse, without applause. Just take it, and keep taking it, until your silence becomes something the world can't ignore. You win when you do what others refuse to. The secret to success isn't hidden in some ancient manuscript or locked behind a vault of mystery. It's right in front of you, obvious, almost painfully so. Most men know exactly what they need to do. They can recite the actions, the principles, the disciplines. They've read the books, heard the speeches, watched the videos, but knowing is not doing. And that's where the line is drawn. Because while the truth of success is simple, the execution of it is rare. Not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. And the average man avoids discomfort like a flame. This avoidance is your advantage. The moment you begin to lean into what others reject, you create distance. Not because you were born with more talent, not because you have better luck, but because you're willing to do what most won't. The world is flooded with people who crave success, yet recoil at the structure required to earn it. They want the crown, but not the cross. They fantasize about reward, but freeze at the first sign of responsibility. They are driven by feelings, not principles, and so their potential rusts while they rehearse excuses. But you must be different. You must train yourself not once, but daily, to lean into the labor others skip, to step forward when the crowd stalls, to push when it gets tedious. Show up earlier, stay later, sweat more. Not to prove something to anyone else, but to become someone you respect. That's the difference between pretending to be powerful and actually becoming it. The small, quiet decisions you make when no one's watching, the ones no one will applaud. Those are the bricks of true strength. Those are the moments that separate the few who rise from the many who remain where they are. Ask yourself, what do others habitually avoid? They avoid the early morning wake-ups. They choose comfort over cold showers, indulgence over self-control. They avoid difficult conversations because silence is easier. They refuse to reflect deeply because distraction feels safer. They escape responsibility because it's heavy. These aren't grand, heroic actions. They're simple, but far from easy, and that's why they matter. Because the secret to real advantage isn't in doing what's impossible, it's in doing what's unpopular. The small disciplines that compound into something unshakable. So how do you use this truth? Begin by noticing. Observe what those around you avoid. At home, at work, in your friendships, in your thoughts. Where do people hesitate? What task causes most to delay, to defer, to pass the burden on? Once you spot it, run toward it, not with ego, but with quiet purpose. Make the hard thing your training ground. Build your identity on that friction, because the man who does what others avoid becomes the man others depend on, the man others respect, the man others can't ignore. Picture this. A team of men is tasked with clearing a field. They show up early, tools in hand, and begin the work. The field is littered with heavy stones. Most of the men notice the large ones and walk around them. Too heavy, they mutter. Someone else will get that. They circle the edges, waiting, looking busy, keeping their heads down. But one man sees the biggest rock and walks straight toward it. He doesn't speak. He doesn't announce his effort. He grips the edge, digs in his heels, and begins to move it. Inch by inch. It's hard. It's slow. It doesn't look impressive, but he keeps going. And by the end of the day, while others have merely cleared the easy surface, his path is clear. His section of the field is transformed. Others glance over, confused. How did he get so much done? They don't understand. He didn't do more. He did what they wouldn't. This is the difference. This is the divide. It's not about hours or hustle porn or burnout. It's about direction. Deliberate, consistent, uncommon direction. Most people will always float in the current of what's comfortable, accepted, average. But the current never leads to greatness. You must step out of the stream, walk against the flow, choose the harder thing on purpose. That is where real momentum begins. Not in sudden bursts of intensity, but in quiet, repeatable choices to face what most fear. So ask yourself now, are you doing the minimum, like the masses, checking the boxes and calling it progress? Or are you choosing the uncommon path? The one with no applause, no certainty, no immediate payoff, but the one that forges something in you. Are you becoming the man who runs straight at the thing others avoid? Because make no mistake, the path is open. The opportunity is real, but it won't remain open forever. Every time you back away from discomfort, someone else steps into it. Every time you delay, someone else moves forward. And when the gates of success finally close behind the few who endured the hard thing, the world will write stories about their talent and timing. But they will know. They will remember. It wasn't magic. It was action. Simple, unseen, unsexy, uncommon. And in the end, that's all it takes. You just have to do what they won't, and keep doing it. The hard thing you do today becomes your power tomorrow. The pain you carry now, the burning in your chest as you fight through the fatigue, the sting of silence as you work alone, the ache of sacrifice that no one claps for. This pain is not in vain. It is not a curse. It is not a punishment. It is process. The struggle you endure today is the power you will carry tomorrow. Not just power in the body, but power in the spirit. A strength that can't be seen in the mirror, but is etched into the decisions you make, the way you walk, the way you refuse to break, every hard decision you make in solitude, every discipline you enforce without applause, every moment you choose to persist when quitting would be easier. Those are not just moments, they are bricks. Quiet, invisible bricks that slowly construct the fortress of your character. And when the wind comes, when pressure hits, it's that fortress that keeps you standing while others fold. Most will never build it, because most refuse to endure the process that forms it. But if you do, if you keep going, you will find that pain does not destroy you, it builds you. The man you admire, the one who walks with certainty, who commands respect without shouting, he wasn't born that way. He was built in fire. His calm came from chaos. His confidence from confusion, his strength from suffering. What once felt impossible to him eventually became effortless. Not because the world got easier, but because he got stronger. That's the shift. That's the elevation. The day the weight no longer breaks you, but builds you. But why do most people never get there? Why do they remain fragile, afraid, uncertain? It's because they never leave the shallow end. They stay where it's comfortable, where effort is minimal and risk is low. They lift only what they know they can carry. They stretch only to the edge of convenience. And so they remain light, not in a graceful way, but in a way that lacks substance. You cannot become deep if you never enter depth. You cannot become powerful if you only ever do what's easy. And you You must not walk that path. You must go into the fire. You must choose the hard thing, not as punishment, but as preparation. You must embrace it with open eyes and a steady heart and say, this will shape me, not this is unfair, not why me, but this is mine. The weight, the challenge, the burden, it was made for you. The hard thing is the gateway, always. It's the necessary threshold between who you are and who you can be, and you cannot cross it without pain. You cannot shortcut your way to strength. There are no hacks, no easy paths, only truth, and truth is found where comfort ends. So today, try this. Find one hard thing, something you've been avoiding, something that lingers in the back of your mind. You know what it is. The conversation you've postponed, the habit you keep delaying, the decision you've been too afraid to make. Choose it, face it, not tomorrow, not when it's easier, not when you feel like it. Now, face it fully, with no shortcuts, no complaints, no backup plans, just presence, discipline, and follow through. And when it's over, don't ask, was it worth it? Ask instead, what did it grow in me? Because that's what matters, not the result, not the outcome, but the man you became in the process. That's the real return on effort. That's the currency of growth, not the applause of others, but the deep, immovable self-trust that grows every time you keep your word to yourself under pressure. Picture a young blacksmith. He stands in front of the forge, face flushed from heat, arms trembling from the weight of the hammer. The steel fights him. The air is thick, sweat stings his eyes, but he swings anyway, strike after strike. His body complains, but his will answers back louder. The years pass, the fire stays hot, the hammer keeps falling, and one day he no longer trembles. His arms are strong, his swing is steady. His forge is filled with tools admired by many. They see the finished product and marvel, but they don't see the pain, the discipline, the failure, the effort in silence. But he remembers, and that pain now lives in every edge of his excellence. That is what awaits you. But only if you step forward, only if you take the hammer and swing, only if you stop floating through the surface and dive into the deep. You are not here to tiptoe through life. You are here to forge something. A soul that does not bend, a mind that does not flinch, a life that means something. And forging is not gentle. It is violent. It is heat and pressure and tension and flame, but it is also the birthplace of what cannot be broken. That's your path. And it begins not in motivation, not in vision boards or words spoken out loud, but in the moment you stop avoiding pain and start using it as fuel, as fire, as form. So ask yourself, with no filter and no softness, what is the hard thing you are avoiding today? And more importantly, what kind of strength might be waiting on the other side if you walked straight into it? Because this is how power is earned. This is how a man is forged, one hard thing at a time. So take the hammer, step into the fire, and begin. You don't become powerful by doing what's easy. You become powerful by doing what's necessary. Every hard thing you face is a doorway to growth. And every time you push through, you rise above the average. Remember this, pain passes, but strength remains. So the next time fear whispers, quit, answer back with action. Keep going, keep pushing, keep building, because the man who forces himself to do hard things is the man who becomes impossible to stop.